The sleek black limousine pulled up to the towering wrought iron gates, and Victoria's pulse raced as she emerged from the vehicle, cradling her 20-month-old daughter against her chest. The estate sprawled before her, like a monument to everything she had lost, its limestone facade gleaming under the late afternoon sky. Little Emma shifted in her arms, her striking blue eyes, so achingly similar to her father's, taking in the massive structure that should have been her birthright. "Daddy," Emma said with perfect clarity, her small fingers pointing toward the entrance. Victoria's chest tightened. After nearly 2 years of exile, 2 years of clawing her way back from absolute devastation, she had returned. But she was no longer the shattered, expectant woman who had been discarded without mercy. This time, she controlled the narrative. This time, she held his daughter. The uniformed guard at the checkpoint visibly startled upon recognizing her face. "Mrs. Blackwood." "Mr. Blackwood provided no notice of your arrival. He remains unaware," Victoria responded, her tone unwavering despite the chaos churning beneath her composed exterior. "But that's about to change. Some choices leave permanent scars. If you want to understand how this explosive reunion came to be, and what circumstances led to this pivotal encounter, subscribe to our channel and comment below with your country. Your engagement inspires us to craft more compelling narratives. Now, let's rewind to where everything began. 2 years before. Victoria Blackwood had always understood that marrying into a crime family meant accepting constant peril. Yet she never anticipated that the most devastating betrayal would originate from her own household. At 28, she had been married to Roman Blackwood for 4 years, and despite the perpetual darkness of his criminal enterprise, she had discovered fragments of authentic joy in their palatial residence overlooking the Pacific coastline. That particular morning, she stood motionless in their master suite, staring at the positive pregnancy indicator clutched in her trembling fingers. At 9 weeks along, her body had finally confirmed what she had suspected for over a month. After 3 years of hoping, they would finally become parents. Her palm pressed against her still unchanged abdomen, visualizing Roman's expression when she revealed the news. He had frequently mentioned his desire for an heir to continue the Blackwood legacy. "Victoria!" Roman's voice thundered from the lower level, razor sharp, with an unfamiliar aggression. She hastily concealed the test inside her vanity drawer and rushed down the sweeping staircase. Roman stood in the marble entrance hall, his typically pristine charcoal suit disheveled, his jet-black hair unkempt. His piercing green eyes, which had once regarded her with such warmth, now blazed with something that sent ice through her veins. Beside him stood Natasha Volkov, a breathtaking redhead wearing an emerald cocktail dress that left little to imagination. Victoria had encountered her at numerous organizational events, consistently noticing how Natasha's attention fixated on Roman with unsettling intensity. "Roman, what's happened?" Victoria asked, her hand unconsciously moving toward her midsection. "What's happened?" Roman's laughter emerged bitter and cutting. "What's happened is that I've been performing a charade for 4 years." Natasha moved closer to Roman, her perfectly manicured fingers sliding possessively along his shoulder. "Tell her, my love. Tell her everything." Victoria's reality fractured. The intimate endearment fell from Natasha's lips with the ease of countless repetitions. "Roman, I don't comprehend what's—" "I'm finished with this pretense, Victoria." His voice carried the chill of winter frost, each syllable piercing her heart. "This marriage was strategic necessity. You were never meant to be permanent." The declaration struck her like physical violence. "What are you saying? You promised me your devotion. You swore—" "I stated whatever maintained stability between our organizations." Roman's eyes had become vacant, stripped of any tenderness she had witnessed there. "Your father's cooperation proved beneficial, but now I have what I genuinely desire." He drew Natasha against him, and she smiled victoriously at Victoria. "We've been involved for nearly a year, darling. Roman was simply awaiting the opportune moment to terminate this arrangement." Victoria felt the floor tilting beneath her. The child, their child, was developing inside her, and he was demolishing their family before it could truly exist. "I'm expecting your baby," she whispered, the confession hanging in the air like smoke. For one fleeting instant, something flickered across Roman's features, but Natasha's grip on his arm intensified, and whatever humanity Victoria had glimpsed evaporated. "That alters nothing," he stated, his voice lethally quiet. "Collect your belongings. You have 60 minutes. Roman, please, 60 minutes, Victoria, or my security personnel will remove you with solely the garments you're currently wearing." Victoria gazed at the man she had cherished, the man whose child grew within her womb, and recognized a complete stranger. The Roman who had comforted her during storms, who had whispered eternal promises, who had caressed her face with gentle devotion, that man had vanished. Natasha's smile radiated triumph. "Don't concern yourself, Victoria. I'll provide excellent care for your husband." With unsteady legs, Victoria ascended the stairs to gather the fragments of her destroyed existence, her palm pressed protectively over the secret developing inside her. A secret that would transform everything, even though Roman remained ignorant. 1 year earlier. The modest studio apartment in the outer district bore no resemblance to the mansion, yet Victoria had learned to embrace it as sanctuary. At 8 months pregnant, her abdomen was pronounced and weighted, and she carefully managed shifts at a neighborhood cafe to survive. Each evening, she collapsed into bed, depleted but resolute. She would provide her child with the affection Roman had denied them both. Dr. Chen smiled while gliding the ultrasound device across Victoria's distended belly. "Everything appears optimal, Victoria. Your delivery date remains scheduled for approximately 1 month. Would you care to learn the gender?" Victoria's heartbeat accelerated. "Yes, absolutely." "Congratulations, you're carrying a daughter." Tears cascaded down Victoria's cheeks. A daughter. Roman had always expressed preference for a son, yet now she carried a daughter he would never encounter due to his own ruthlessness. Meanwhile, across the metropolis, Roman stood in his penthouse office surveying the cityscape. 12 months had elapsed since he'd expelled Victoria, and something gnawed at his conscience. The guilt he had suppressed was beginning to surface, but whenever he contemplated contacting her, Natasha materialized, reinforcing his decision, convincing him it was optimal. "You're thinking about her again," Natasha observed, embracing him from behind. "No," Roman lied, his jaw clenched. "Excellent, because I have information that will eliminate any lingering thoughts of that pathetic woman." Natasha's voice carried honey-coated steel. "My father's trafficking networks are finally consolidated. The Volkov organization is prepared to integrate operations with the Blackwoods." Roman nodded, though his thoughts wandered elsewhere. He had married Victoria for strategic alliance with her father's syndicate, but somewhere during their union, he had fallen deeply for her quiet strength, her unwavering loyalty, her capacity to perceive goodness in him when he couldn't recognize it himself. Expelling her had been the most agonizing decision he'd ever made. But Natasha had persuaded him it was essential for organizational advancement. What he didn't realize was that Natasha had been feeding him fabrications for months, corrupting his perception of Victoria with manufactured evidence of infidelity, falsified documentation, and meticulously orchestrated scenarios designed to undermine his wife's faithfulness. "Roman," Natasha purred, "abandon the past. We have prospects to construct." But as Roman observed the illuminated skyline, he couldn't dismiss the sensation that he had committed the gravest error of his existence. 2 months later. Victoria's labor was prolonged and excruciating, but when she finally cradled her daughter in her arms, every moment of suffering evaporated. Emma Grace Blackwood, she had retained Roman's surname, unable to completely sever that connection, was flawless. She possessed Roman's dark hair and defined features, but her eyes were Victoria's, warm sapphire instead of cold emerald. "She's beautiful," the nurse commented gently. "Does the father have knowledge?" Victoria's throat constricted. "No, and he never will." But as she gazed at her daughter, she made a silent vow. Eventually, when Emma was mature enough to comprehend, she would reveal the truth about her father. And perhaps, someday, Roman would recognize what he had sacrificed. She had no awareness that across the city, Roman was gradually uncovering Natasha's intricate web of deception, or that the truth would soon obliterate everything he believed about the night he destroyed his marriage. Present day. 20 months after Emma's birth, Victoria stood before the mirror in her compact apartment, adjusting the sophisticated navy dress she had purchased for this confrontation. The past 20 months had transformed her in unprecedented ways. Balancing multiple employment positions while raising Emma had forged a resilience she never knew existed. She had also been covertly constructing something, a comprehensive case against Natasha Volkov that would expose every falsehood, every manipulation. Through a private investigator she had retained with her modest savings, Victoria had discovered the complete truth. Natasha had fabricated documents, compensated witnesses, and even staged incriminating photographs to convince Roman that Victoria was conducting an affair. The woman had engineered the destruction of their marriage with calculated precision. Emma babbled cheerfully in her playpen, her brilliant blue eyes radiant and inquisitive. At 20 months, she was walking confidently, articulating words clearly, and represented the perfect fusion of both parents. Roman's powerful features softened by Victoria's gentle disposition. "Today, sweetheart," Victoria whispered, lifting her daughter. "Today your father will meet you, and today the truth emerges." The journey to the estate felt simultaneously endless and insufficient. Victoria's heart pounded as the familiar gates materialized. But this time, she wasn't the broken woman who had departed. This time, she was a mother with nothing to lose and everything worth fighting for. The security guard's shock was unmistakable as he opened the barrier. Word of her arrival would reach Roman within moments. Victoria walked up the marble steps she had once descended through tears, carrying the daughter Roman had never encountered. The massive entrance doors opened before she could knock. Roman stood there, and Victoria's breath caught. He appeared older, diminished by something she couldn't identify. His green eyes widened when he saw her, then dropped to the child in her arms. Victoria. Her name escaped his lips like a desperate plea. "Hello, Roman." Her voice remained steady, controlled. "I believe you possess something that belongs to me." "What are you—" His words died as Emma turned in Victoria's arms, and Roman saw his own reflection in miniature. The resemblance was undeniable. The strong jawline, the dark hair, the determined expression. "This is Emma," Victoria stated quietly. "Your daughter." Color drained from Roman's face. Behind him, Victoria could hear Natasha's sharp gasp. "That's impossible," Natasha declared, appearing at Roman's side. "You're fabricating this." Victoria's eyes blazed with fury. "The only fabricator here is you, Natasha, and it's time everyone discovered the truth." She reached into her bag and extracted a thick folder. DNA analysis results, medical documentation proving the timeline, and something else you might find illuminating, Roman. Evidence of how your beloved Natasha has been manipulating you for over 2 years. Roman's hands trembled as he accepted the folder, his eyes never leaving his daughter's face. Emma, oblivious to the tension, reached toward her father with small hands. "Dada," Emma said clearly, her first genuine word directed at the stranger who was her father. The sound shattered something inside Roman. This beautiful child, his child, had been calling for a father who didn't even know she existed. "You're lying," Natasha shrieked, but her voice had lost its confident edge. "Roman, don't believe her. She's attempting to manipulate you." "Like you manipulated him," Victoria's voice was ice. "Show him the documents, Roman. Show him the proof of how you forged my signature on papers I never authorized. How you bribed his security team to provide false intelligence about my activities. How you staged those photographs that convinced him I was unfaithful." Roman's hands shook as he opened the folder, his face growing increasingly pale with each document he examined. Banking records showing payments from Natasha to various individuals. Sworn testimony from witnesses admitting they had been compensated to lie. Original photographs demonstrating how the compromising images had been digitally altered. "This cannot be authentic," he whispered. "It's completely authentic, Roman. Every lie she told you, every piece of evidence she manufactured, it's all documented." Victoria's voice fractured slightly. "She destroyed our marriage, our family, for her own ambition." Natasha retreated, her face contorted with rage and fear. You can't prove anything. Those documents could be fabricated. Could they? Victoria retrieved her phone and played a recording. Natasha's voice filled the space, clear and unmistakable, as she boasted to someone about how effortless it had been to manipulate Roman, how she had orchestrated every detail of Victoria's downfall. The recording was irrefutable, and everyone present understood it. Roman looked up from the papers, his green eyes filled with pain so profound it stole Victoria's breath. "What have I done?" he whispered. "God help me, what have I done?" Emma reached out again, and this time Roman's hands moved instinctively to accept his daughter. The moment their skin touched, Roman collapsed completely. "I'm sorry," he sobbed, holding Emma against his chest. "I'm so sorry, my precious girl. I'm so sorry." But Victoria stepped back, her face a mask of controlled emotion. "Sorry doesn't restore the 20 months I spent alone and terrified. Sorry doesn't erase the nights I wept until exhaustion, wondering how the man I loved could discard me like refuse." "Victoria, please. I didn't come here for apologies, Roman. I came because Emma deserves to know her father. But don't believe for 1 second that this changes anything between us. You made your choice. Now accept the consequences." As she turned to depart, taking Emma with her, Roman realized that reclaiming his family would be the battle of his life, and he might already be beyond redemption. 6 months later. The transformation in Roman was gradual but undeniable. He appeared daily at precisely the promised time, never late, never offering excuses. He brought necessities, paid for Emma's childcare, and slowly, carefully, began constructing a relationship with his daughter. Victoria observed from a distance, as Roman learned to change diapers, as he patiently fed Emma her meals, as he read bedtime stories in his deep, resonant voice. The 2-year-old had begun warming to her father, giggling when Roman made silly faces, and rushing to him when he arrived. "Dada," Emma called one afternoon, toddling toward Roman on steady legs, her vocabulary expanding daily. The joy on Roman's face was so pure, so overwhelming, that Victoria felt her carefully constructed defenses begin to fracture. "Did you see that?" Roman asked, scooping Emma up and spinning her around. "She ran to me." "I saw," Victoria said softly, unable to suppress the smile forming on her face. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Roman lingered in the living area instead of departing immediately as usual. "Victoria," he said quietly, "I need to share something with you." She tensed, anticipating another revelation, another complication. "I've been seeing a therapist," he continued. "Dr. Morrison. She's helping me understand how I could have been so blind, so easily manipulated. I want to improve myself for Emma, for you, for myself." Victoria stared at him in astonishment. Roman Blackwood, the formidable crime boss who had never displayed vulnerability to anyone, was voluntarily seeking professional help. "She says I have trust issues stemming from childhood trauma, my father's betrayals, my mother's abandonment. I was so terrified of being hurt that I destroyed the one person who genuinely loved me." His voice was barely audible. "I'm learning to recognize when someone is attempting to manipulate me. I'm learning to trust my own judgment instead of accepting poison. Roman, I know it doesn't change what I did. I know it doesn't erase the pain I caused you, but I'm trying to become the man you deserved all along." Victoria felt tears threatening. This vulnerable, honest Roman was the man she had fallen for, the man she had glimpsed in quiet moments during their marriage. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I love you. I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second. And I know I have no right to ask, but I'm hoping, praying, that someday you might be able to love me again." The words suspended in the air between them, heavy with possibility and anguish. "I never stopped loving you either," Victoria admitted quietly. "That's what made it hurt so profoundly. You didn't just discard our marriage, Roman. You discarded the best parts of yourself." "I know, but I'm trying to recover those parts. With your help, if you'll permit me." Victoria looked at this man who had demolished her world and was now attempting to reconstruct it. She thought about Emma, who deserved both parents in her life. She thought about the love that had never truly died, despite everything. "I'm not ready to forgive you completely," she said finally. "And I'm not ready to trust you with my heart again. But I'm willing to try. For Emma. And maybe eventually, for us." Roman's eyes filled with tears. "That's all I can ask for. That's more than I deserve." "You're right. It is more than you deserve. But love isn't about what we deserve, is it? It's about what we're willing to fight for." 1 year later. The garden celebration at the Blackwood estate was flourishing. But this time, the laughter was genuine, the joy authentic. Victoria stood on the terrace, watching Roman chase 3-year-old Emma around the immaculate lawn. Their daughter's delighted screams filled the air as her father caught her and lifted her skyward. "Higher, Daddy, higher," Emma demanded, her blue eyes sparkling with mischief. "Any higher and you'll be flying, little one," Roman laughed, but he obliged, spinning Emma until they both collapsed on the grass in hysterics. Victoria's hand moved instinctively to her growing belly, where their second child, a son, was due in 3 months. This pregnancy differed from her first. This time, Roman attended every appointment, every craving, every moment of discomfort. This time, she wasn't alone. "You're radiant," said Claire, Roman's sister, joining Victoria on the terrace. "Pregnancy suits you." "Happiness suits me," Victoria corrected with a smile. "It took us considerable time to arrive here, but we succeeded." The journey back to each other hadn't been simple. There had been obstacles, arguments, moments when Victoria had questioned if she was making a mistake. But Roman had proven his commitment every single day. As the sun descended over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, the Blackwood family stood together on the terrace of their home. Emma chattered excitedly about her day, Victoria laughed at her daughter's boundless energy, and Roman held them both close, knowing he had been granted the greatest gift imaginable: a second chance at love. The past would always be part of their narrative, but it no longer defined their future. They had learned that love wasn't just about the easy moments. It was about choosing each other every day, even when it was difficult, even when it hurt, even when forgiveness seemed impossible. This story has reached its conclusion, but the journey of love, forgiveness, and second chances continues to inspire us all. If this tale resonated with you, leave your like and share it with someone who believes in the power of redemption. New emotional stories are coming soon. Until next time, remember that love always finds a way.